There is something that I read that's a bit interesting. In Italy, they have this thing called equity crowdfunding.
Okay.
So you don't have one investor just investing in you. They have this platform, right? Whereby people put up their, stakes, what. And then investors from all over can invest in this company. How? First of all, this de-risks the investor. So if you need at least $500,000 and you've put up your stakes there, your idea is viable, people have viewed your things, you can even get 50 investors investing in you at the same time.
Oh, yeah, that de-risks.
Yes, so it de-risks the risk the investor as well. Exactly. So let us not even have it limited to one investor, because you find that the investor meetups that are the traditional way are really one-on-one. One investor, one startup. One investor, one startup.
It makes the receiver vulnerable.
Yes, and even you who is investing, it makes you vulnerable, because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And me, the startup, I'm receiving all your eggs with the expectation of 10,000 other baskets.
This is the Policy Digest, a Center for Policy Analysis podcast that explores how African societies are governed and how people and their leaders are shaping the future of their communities. Through candid conversations and insightful analysis, we aim to provide a deeper understanding of the political, economic, and social landscape of Africa. So sit back, relax, and get ready to explore the diverse and dynamic world of African governance.
Hello, my name is Joseph, the host of the Policy Digest. Welcome back to the series that is trying to look into Uganda's startup policy and law that is in the process of being created. And in the first episode, we did look at what a startup law in principle looks like, and what is it about the Ugandan situation that is inviting the need for that specific law. We also touched just a bit about some international benchmarks of jurisdictions that have legislation of such nature, and how enabling that has been for the business environment and for the dreams of those young people. But just to set the stage of this conversation. So this second conversation is going to rely on us discussing what specific incentives that a law of such a nature, from just a thought experiment perspective, what incentives would such a law need to have if it were to create the enabling environment that it needs. And our hope is that at the end of this conversation, you can have a bit of context about the kind of incentives that are necessary. In order to do that, we are hosting another colleague from the Innovation Village, and that is Counsel Angel Mary Nsangi, who is a legal associate with the Innovation Village. Angel.
Yes, please.
I'm honored to host you here.
We are honored to be here. Very much happy.
Yeah, I hope you are enjoying your time here.
We are. Actually, it's our first time to come here and host the podcast with you.
Oh, yeah,
but
sure.
Of course, we've had very many other engagements.
Oh,
and
yes,
we love what SEPA does. This is the reason as to why we keep on coming to your, enjoyments and engagements, We are actually very, very excited. Whenever they tell me there is a SEPA meetup, I am excited and happy to be here. Thank you for hosting us.
You're really doing a lot of good work at the village.
Yeah.
That's the work of, when they say on Twitter, they say, you're doing the work of God. You're doing the actual work of God, the one which God should be doing, which is really to ferment the dreams of people. But maybe then to pick it up just from there, what kind of incentives do Ugandan businesses need that should be enshrined by law, by legislation?
Well, Ugandan businesses in general, or are we talking of startups?
Oh, forgive my tongue. Startups.
Yeah, because I know my colleague earlier on made a clear distinction from the two.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
You may be running your shop and call it a startup. So
exactly.
let's restrict it to startups, yes.
So now, startups, first of all, we need to recognize that they have pain points. Legitimate and valid pain points. Why? Because they are venturing into an economy, into an industry that is still fresh. You see, the way law is made, in the past anyway, the way law was made is that something happens first, then you regulate it. Coincidentally, that's still the same process right now. Right?
Reactive.
So, yes.
First observe and then legislate something as it evolves.
Something happens, and then they're like, oh, wait, this needs to be regulated. And then the laws start coming up. Now, with the startups, it's for some economies that are already up and above, most of them have incorporated these laws. The demographics show that at least 55 countries have startup regulations.
Oh, 55 is quite a number.
Worldwide.
And most of them are in which continent?
Clearly not in Africa. In Africa, there are a few notable ones we can speak to.
Okay.
There is Tunisia, there is Nigeria, there is Senegal. Tunisia has really come up thriving. You realize that with the enactment of their policy, should have been in 2018, their economy has actually grown. Their startups are thriving. There has been funding. The economy has gone up through the roof. So you can clearly see that the regulation is needed, but this regulation has to favor the sector that you're looking into. Now, the sector we are looking into are the startups. These are ventures, companies, corporations, individuals who have novel ideas that are trying to disrupt the market. So if I'm trying to disrupt the market, that means that what I'm doing is not yet being done.
It's novel, it's new.
It's new. If it's not yet being done, I'm going to need all the support that I'm going to get. And we have realized that if you need support, government should be the first person in your corner. How does government help? By enacting the law that is needed. Now, speaking from the aspect of a startup, I will tell you one of the few things that they really consider as pain points. Number one, they will tell you the bureaucracy when it comes to registration. And you will understand that this has been solved at least to 90 or 95% by URSB. Startups are very, very good when it comes to technology. So the seamless online registration has made it so easy. But that is just one of the problems, not all. They have issues with taxes. Oh my God. Even the big corporations cry, right? The big corporations need tax bailouts. Now, how about this young person who has a novel idea and is just beginning with barely any funding, any capital? The other issue that you will hear them talk about is the protection of their ideas. We have the law. Trust me, I'll commend our parliament in making the laws. The laws on paper are very good. How about enforcing them? And this really comes in as a problem because most of the law, if not all, is usually an import of the foreign law. You realize that unless just because of late, a few things have changed, whereby people actually get together, they have policy discussions, workshops, they bring in place the necessary stakeholders. But initially, copy?
Yeah, there's like a law I saw somewhere. I think it was on climate change. I was
yes.
Like, you people are so hardworking.
Exactly. The problem with copy and paste is that you're copying from someone who has already created an implementation plan. Unlike you. You're copying, you're pasting, but you can't implement what you're pasting.
Yeah, because it's a contextual. It's out of the context.
It's out of the context. You're not looking deeper into what your people need. Because I'll tell you, if you're protecting an IP in Silicon Valley, it's going to be different from protecting an IP here in Uganda. Someone in Uganda will come up with a folk song, something that is catchy, something that is nice. Someone will come up with a nice local movie. But protecting it is going to be different because why? You are using some of the, what can I call them? The stories they used to tell around the fireplace?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Now, someone even owning that and protecting that, it will be hard because they'll tell you, no, this is a culture thing. You can't own it as an individual. Now, if you don't get down to the ground and understand what you're trying to protect, it's going to be just like any other law on the shelf. So the incentives, even before we start talking about the incentives, let's talk about the process. Please let us be sure that we understand what our startups need.
Do you think the government understands what they need?
I think the only way you can understand what they need is by listening to them.
Do you think those processes of listening to them exist?
I think they do. And I think some of them have been done because, as you know, there is already a policy that is being undertaken. And I can at least speak and say that some of the notable startups have been invited to these rooms, right, to air their views and air possible solutions. But obviously, as a government, you can only stretch so far. And since these are baby steps, you start with what you can handle. But still, I would emphasize that these startups are given an ultimate chance to be able to air out their views. Because if I tell you tax is an issue for me, and then you say, okay, I'll give you a tax holiday, that may work for me. But now in the following year, you may need me to produce more based on the holiday you've given me. But you haven't made the access to the market easy, right? You haven't made the environment for the investors to invest in me easy. So they span. It's not a one solution that can hold all this together.
It's not one size fits solution.
So you need to be able to understand. Okay, if they need a tax incentive, let me give you at least 1 year free for the first year that you're operating. And on top of that, let me make sure that an investor can easily invest in you while I'm still protecting your idea, right? If you're telling me that the URSB is going to be able to give me a right to incorporate and protect my IP, then there should be a right for me, the owner of the IP, to enforce it if someone infringes on it. That is the law. But what is its practicability? So all these things, besides even looking at just one thing, all need to be looked into so that the startup environment is leveled. We are competing with countries like Kenya. Kenya has the Konza Technopolis. Oh my God, it's wonderful.
Walk us through that.
Well, I can't speak more to it or very much in depth, but all I know is that it is more like the Silicon Valley of Kenya, and it is wide, it is huge. It has all these resources that a startup would need. Right, you'll find the skilling, the training, you'll find the legal, the HR, everything is in there, right? And if I'm to even draw a clear distinction or comparison, you would look at the ESOs in Uganda here, the ecosystem support organizations. The very notable one is the Innovation Village.
Oh, yes.
You look at Hive Collab, you look at Outbox. All these are trying to do something for the startups in the economy. Right? And they all have novel ideas. How about they come together with the government, with the startups, with the founders, with the investors, other than working in silos?
Separately, scattered efforts. And exactly. In the long run, they can't have something.
In Uganda, there is that saying, Avechi, amanya amanji gegali nyama, something like that. Like when you come together, it is easier to work to a common solution, common problem.
And for me, really, because all these mostly are CSOs, right? So it would be like the equivalent of us leaving the health sector for civil society organizations and the government saying that's your work. And
exactly. When you look at some sectors, you look at the agriculture sector, they've really tried to, come together, right? And of recent, I heard that the Dairy Corporation and there is another initiative that had been separate from the agriculture sector. They're all coming together under one ministry.
Oh, yes.
So you realize that working in silos hasn't yielded. Of course, it has yielded some results, but it would yield more if we are all working together.
I totally get you, and we as SEPA, we follow the budget every year. Government's policy on catalyzing that kind of startup growth has been in terms of giving bailouts to certain companies. They gave 726 billion to Day Biopharma, they gave to Rocco, to indigenous companies. So in terms of access to capital, they have the Myoga Fund, which is about 1.2 trillion fund. They have revolving funds, Women Livelihood Program, Youth Livelihood Program that they inject money into every year. If they were to structure, let's say, capital, that kind of seed funding, not that 1 million they give in a Myoga Fund, how would that look like in terms of government having a policy that provides some form of access to a substantial resources for people to experiment with maybe the next idea, which would be the next Facebook or something?
Thank you. So for that, I would like to at least commend a few corporations that have really tried to do that. You'll realize some of them have created sandboxes, right? There is, I think, Stanbic Bank with its incubator. Then there is the Unipod at Makerere. I realized...
Stanbic gives about how much?
I couldn't speak to the figures. I'm not so certain. But when it
Unipod,
comes to...
Is that by UNDP, by Makerere?
UNDP, but in Makerere. So what happens is that when you speak of funding, there are very many aspects in funding. There is the actual money that very many startups need, but then there is also the actual preparation to make you investor ready. Now, these two move hand in hand. Because trust me, if I sought a startup with a very good idea and gave you the money without giving you the investor readiness program, the financial management, the legal basic training, it's highly probable that you're going to squander that money.
High chances, of course.
Yes.
And you know, the Ugandan education, it's not so grounded that you will have very deep management skills.
Exactly. We all know our education system. Just recently, I heard on the radio one of the bailout companies that were bailed out, Rocco, they were supposed to submit a report of what they have done, right? But
that report may come.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to show you is that even the big companies have similar problems, and yet they have more resources. So how about this baby company? So some of the easy funding initiatives that could be included by the government could be one. Have a startup fund, right? Let there be a fund that you're saying, okay, we are designating this much for the startups, and how shall we give it out? If a startup is able to meet these requirements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're able to show that they're scalable. They're able to show that it is a Ugandan-owned company. They're able to show that they'll have returns, at least their anticipated returns show that within this year, something will be able to come back.
Would that be like non-dilutive, or would it be dilutive funding? Like, which kind of money do you think government would be giving them? One where they have like shares in the company, or one where it braces them, it takes the risk?
I think also government,
from a legal
perspective, the blessing is good, but you can't keep blessing. However, if you have even a 0.01% equity in that, I believe it's better for you as the blesser to be able to understand how the money is moving, and it will even have more accountability on your end.
So they need to have some form of stake.
Yes, no matter how small.
Controlling stake.
Not controlling really.
Or non-preferential.
It could be non-preferential. It could be one that returns to the owner.
To the national.
Yes, to the owner after a certain period of time. Because what you will see from the very many investors that we have, they will give you the fund. But that fund will have all the other sources of financing within there. What do I mean? The fund they're giving you will act as a loan. It will act as equity. It will act as loyalty. It will act as...
depending on the condition.
Depending on the conditions, yes. It will act as everything, trust me. And you'll find that someone has entered into a very bad deal, but they really need it.
Not that it's bad. Have you heard of the echoing grain?
No.
You haven't? I saw one of the conditions reviewing that documentation. When you hit 2 million, it like activates a clause where you have to pay back. I don't know what you guys call it in the law. You just laughed at.
Because I think I know where you're headed.
Yes.
Startups have suffered. They have suffered. They're still suffering. Because you sign a deal.
Mm-hmm. Because you're desperate.
You're desperate. You need it. Mm-hmm. You have faith in your idea. You know it's going to work because you've piloted it. But then the conditions are tough.
Walk me through those conditionalities.
I can't speak from an experimental or experiential perspective. All I could say is just give you hints here and there. Well, you find a startup has a good idea. Now, there are the angel investors and the venture capitalists. The angel investors are the ones that will be like, okay, I see where you're going. I see where you're headed.
I believe in you.
I'm going to give you this much, right? And then you give me equity. We will pay each other this way, that way, this way, that way, right? Then there are the venture capitalists who will be like, I need to first see growth.
Okay.
I need to first see growth. What have you achieved in 5 years? What are you expecting to achieve in the next 2 years? Okay, so if I'm giving you this much, we'll keep on earning like this, like that, like this, like that. So the access to funding, the pool is wide, trust me, because you'll find the grants, the loans, the this, the that. But we really need to regulate this pool. Investors take these people for a ride.
And the startup law would
regularize it. Yes, it creates an enabling environment where both of us are in a win-win situation.
Where if a manipulation happens, the law can hold
exactly
this person that has more power in the negotiation to account.
Exactly, because in this law you find that, okay, the startup is being protected, but also the investor is given an economic ground, like a viable ground to thrive. And also, it also protects the investors. How? Because if I'm an investor, the one thing I'm going to look at is how am I getting my money back?
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
That's the number one interest.
Exactly. Besides how am I getting my money back, how stable are you and your country? Right? What's the political climate like? What is the inflation? What all those things are being questioned.
Currency.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness.
So this law should be in position to address some of these things. There is something that I read that's a bit interesting. In Italy, they have this thing called equity crowdfunding.
Okay.
So you don't have one investor just investing in you. They have this platform, right? Whereby people put up their, stakes, what. And then investors from all over can invest in this company. How? First of all, this de-risks the investor. So if you need at least $500,000 and you've put up your stakes there, your idea is viable, people have viewed your things, you can even get 50 investors investing in you at the same time.
Oh, yeah, that de-risks.
Yes, so it de-risks the investor as well. Exactly. So let us not even have it limited to one investor, because you find that the investor meetups that are the traditional way are really one-on-one. One investor, one startup. One investor, one startup. It makes the
receiver vulnerable.
Yes, and even you who is investing, it makes you vulnerable, because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And me, the startup, I'm receiving all your eggs with the expectation of 10,000 other baskets. Right? So there are certain novel ideas that could work in Uganda. We don't necessarily have to copy word for word what other jurisdictions have done, but we can emulate. Right? We could also look at things like IP protection. I think that I had already touched on.
Yeah, you had indicated that.
But we have to make sure that it can be enforced. Allow me know that my idea is protected. Show me that it is protected.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know whether you follow Parliament so much. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons they normally strike down laws is either you are bringing forth a clause which is already met under another act. So that specific protection, how would it look like? That would be particularly unique and exclusive to a startup policy or law. That's not in any other law that has to do with intellectual property.
Thank you. And still, this is very much opinionated. Yeah. It's just from me.
Absolutely.
So, when I protect my IP in Uganda, it may not be recognized in Kenya.
What?
Because it's now on a national level. We have the continental level, which is ARIPO, right? And the international level, which is WIPO.
This is so funny. You protect your IP here. It cannot be protected in Uganda.
The IPs also have yes, they have categories. They have categories of jurisdictions. So
how is that weak?
No, I'm not saying it is weak. All I'm saying is that the way the law is structured is that way.
You're trying to be nice. That's being weak. Get out of the country.
No.
Okay, fine. Diplomat, Angel Mary Nsangi. Fine.
There is ARIPO. ARIPO helps me protect my IP on a continental level, which is Africa level.
Okay.
WIPO is the international, the World Intellectual Property Organization. It also helps me protect on that level. I commend URSP. They have been able to have legal arrangements and engagements with both organizations.
IPO and WIPO.
Yes. And at least you can see that really URSP is one of those entities, organizations that has thrived in the past 2 to 3 years.
Oh, yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So what I mean by this is that I would suggest for there to be borderless IP. If I'm protecting my idea in Uganda, allow me protect it in Australia as well, based on the agreement Uganda is having with WIPO. Right? Allow my idea be recognized in Ghana because Uganda has an agreement with ARIPO for this recognition and protection across. There are very many fights when it comes to IP. I own this. No, it's mine. No, it's for the other one. And yet IP right now, the economy we are going into is an asset.
Oh, yes.
It is an asset. And I believe that Uganda should also pick on that. Besides creating the borderless IP, please allow me use my IP to secure a loan.
Oh, by the way, because an IP can have, financial value?
Exactly. These things are valued. Because if I am pitching an idea to you, I'm going to tell you that I value my IP in this idea at this much. And I'm going to show you the evidence of my valuation. So if you're an investor, I would even believe banks are investors in a way.
Oh, yes,
if you're an investor, an individual can understand the valuation that I'm making. How hard is it for a bank to understand that in valuation?
And take a risk.
And take a risk on that.
Take a risk at any other business, yeah.
Because the one where startups make money is when you commercialize your IP. These startups don't own land. They don't own heavy machinery, heavy trucks. There isn't much they own to give it up as security, yet they need a lot of money. So one of the things you can do or enable is to have my IP commercialized. Allow me be able to trade it. Let me trade with it because it's my idea, right? So in light of that, there are very many other things the government can do that I may not be able to speak in detail on, besides the tax incentives, the access to market. Meanwhile, also access to market is another thing. You realize that the things that are being sold on the market are not raw goods, raw materials, they're actually finished products.
Absolutely. So people won't buy your good, lovely idea that is on a PowerPoint.
Someone will come to Uganda, a company from another country will come and tell you, I want 50 metric tons of iron ore. And I'm getting each ton at maybe $20,000. But the other side, when they're selling the same and they've made a product out of that iron ore, oh my God, it will be billions of dollars. Billions. And how much is coming back into the country?
So in terms of access to market, it would be more or less like what the Exim Bank does in China, gives you money to access international markets. How would access to market look like for such a policy?
Access to market is a bit wide.
Oh, yes.
Because now we are looking at startups. And access to market does not necessarily mean I have given you maybe the means to go into this market. It even starts from within. In Uganda here, there are very many things that are costly. The internet. I doubt there is a startup that runs without internet. Transportation itself is costly. Having an office space, much more costly.
Maintaining it, having the resources, it is costly. So if at all you lower my production risk and production costs, you're helping me access the market. Access to market is not me being able to sell here and there. It's me having a good that will be easily bought by someone. It's me having a good that speaks to the problems that people are facing, but also those people can afford to have it. Otherwise, if my production cost is through the roof, man, I'm not going to sell it because I need to recover these costs. So access to market goes a long way. But for starters, you could also have a working train. That's true. And I wanted to bring a bit of context. I've realized Rwanda has changed its behavior internally because there's something it is looking at. For example, I think it was it last year? They were quite involved in squabbles about this. I think the lead actor on Hotel Rwanda, and I think they had kind of played them. What do they call it in chess? Checkmate. He ended up in a Rwandan prison, right? Mm-hmm. And then ultimately he is released. They don't even want to be in the news. it looks like they're trying to change their internal climate such that they improve their idiosyncratic credits globally to look like they are the home to capital. And I'm told the amount of money in Kigali, you can't imagine it. Maybe then if we are to maybe get to this question on if we were to have a very good startup policy, how would it cultivate an environment that attracts more FDI and foreign investors to invest in Ugandan startups?
I had initially spoken about the few things that the policy could do. I could just try to give it more context. If you're to build a house and you have a good foundation, that house will withstand all sorts of weather, right? The good, the bad, the heat, the rain, it will withstand. Why?
Yeah, the earthquake.
Because you have the right material. You have used the correct and accurate material. So this startup policy lays a bedrock for investment. Right from the grassroots, it will start by one, trying to make the startup visible. When you make me visible, you have made me known to the market. When you make me known to the market, everyone will hear from me. When people hear from me, they'll know what I'm offering and how good it is. When they know how good it is, they will come in. When they are coming in and they see that the conditions you've laid for them to come in are actually favorable, they will flood. They will come in. So if some of these things are implemented, you don't even have to say much. And right now we have the social media, which is it is one of the strongest tools we have.
Let me see which company. Let's say it is called Dopa. They're like, where is Dopa from? Uganda.
Exactly. You just, this is what
It's
Dopa
Ugandan.
does.
Oh
My God. The Ministry of so-and-so has released this statement on investor readiness, on investor protection. Trust
and before
me.
you know it, more money is coming.
Yes, and we have seen this. Even without this law, you can see there is some little money coming in, right? Without the law. Meaning some of these factors are already in place. We just need to amplify those that are not in place, right? Amplify those that are doing well. And trust me, if that is laid, you can see all those that are having these startup regulations and how they're thriving. They are. We've seen West Africa in the past 3 years has taken up, 80% of the funding given to Africa as a continent?
My goodness.
Yes.
And
why is
Uganda
this?
gets the crumb that falls off.
And yet we say that we are actually getting something, right? We feel like there is something coming in.
How much is it, like $1 billion? Is it?
The last I checked, it was about close to 500, 600. Not so sure. I will still address my mind to that.
Is that million? Is that billion?
Millions.
Every year.
Yes. But the West Africa.
West Africa is...
Yes, it is up those ends. Why? They have realized what the investors want. They have realized what their startups need to thrive. We just need collabo. We need a collabo of both so that our economy can also thrive. And
yes, yeah.
If you look at the ideas these people have, oh my God, these chaps are brilliant. Very brilliant.
And their ideas are commercially viable.
They are.
You need someone to work with them when they are still crawling.
Yes. I'm very sure the ESOs have tried, because you'll find Innovation Village trying to give, through some programs of theirs, of course, give basic business information. They'll give you financial information, the legal, the scaling and all this. They'll even create an arena for you to meet an investor.
Oh, yes.
But then this becomes cumbersome on them if they're the only ones doing it.
Absolutely. The more hands, the better.
Exactly. Of course, the Startup Act, the Startup Law, the Startup Policy will help investors to come within UG. It will really help the startups. And of course, when there is funding, there is a rise in the economy, standards of living are elevated. The areas to even lay your taxes are now widened. So it's a win-win situation for both.
For everyone.
For everyone.
Oh, thank you, Angel, for giving us that context on what incentives startups need, and if we were to have a law or policy that is grounding these very ideas, how it would look like and what that means for foreign direct investment. Do you have any parting shots as we close this conversation?
Well, my parting shot would be, we are living in interesting times, right? We are living in times where information is easily accessible. The best that we can do for ourselves is keep learning every day. The startups mainly. You know, with startups at times, you have this idea. It is your baby, right? It's your little shop. It's your little everything. And when someone advises you to look just slightly onto this other possibility, no. I want to focus on this. We need to be open-minded. There is this phrase that has been used last year, this year. We need to learn and learn and relearn. That one can't be said enough, right? And even us who are trying to understand the startups, let us be able to provide services that are not so draining to them.
Oh, yes.
Pocket-friendly services. Understand that they are growing.
Oh, yes,
Someone
yes.
held your hand as well, right? There is that first person who gave you internship, even when you had no experience. The first person who gave you your very first job, yes, when you had nothing to offer and all you do was learn on job. So you can extend this grace to some people. Of course, you need to earn a living as well as a service provider.
Of course.
But just extend a little more grace to these ones. Help them thrive. Because you realize most of them are youth. They are the leaders of tomorrow. So, yeah, we need to be able to work harmoniously towards a common goal, which is better life for everyone.
Thank you so much, Angel, for your time on this podcast. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. It was an honor hearing from you. And to you, our dear viewer, nations are not built using machines. They're built using people, and those people need to be built. And part of what creates that kind of foundation is a startup policy. And we've had these conversations on the need for a startup policy and what incentives businesses need, such that we can see a future where Uganda produces the next Toyota, such that we're not just known for our amazing reputation globally, or we're not just known for our natural features like Victoria, and Gahingas. We can be known for things that are not specifically natural, the products of our mind, whether it is that Toyota, whether it is that Apple or Samsung. And I'm hoping that if you are there and you are in the startup community, that you should not despair. That we hope that this policy, if it comes through, or if the conversations we're having mature, then we can create the enabling environment that you need to ensure that you're able to lift the African community. And to you, our viewer, we thank you for always being here with us. Find our other content on all your favorite podcasting platforms, be it YouTube, the Policy Digest, be it Parliament Watch, if you go to Twitter or X, if you are able to go to just any platform, search for our content, and we realize that it will give you every content you need to be a meaningful citizen in this state called Uganda. Till next time, I remain Joseph Tahinduka. Thank you for listening to the Policy Digest podcast, the Center for Policy Analysis podcast that is profiling African ideas and people that are shaping the future of their communities. Subscribe to all our platforms on YouTube and Podbean.